Hello, my dear friend, and welcome to the Spiritually Engineered Podcast, where we take a deep dive into the human experience from a spiritual perspective. Come on in, and I invite you to stay. All right, my friend. In today's episode, we are going to continue on this series of going into the spiritual foundations series. And today's episode, we're going to be talking about number 4, spiritual foundation number 4. I have inner guidance, and this is a very good one because I'll start it with this question here. How often do you evaluate the thoughts in your head? Or do you even evaluate them at all? Maybe perhaps you get some thoughts, they may make you cringe, or I don't know, maybe it might be something blissful, or maybe something concerning. And then you just kind of carry about your day. I can't tell you that for myself, that's something that happens a lot, and for my, just how I can have these thoughts and then I can just carry about my day and not actually pay attention to something very crucial here that goes back to this key foundation. I have inner guidance. So here's the thing. We have, as a soul with a physical body, as a soul with a human body, if you will, being a soul, you and I, we are souls. We have a body. We have two natures. The first one was not really first or second, but really one nature is our intellect part, the part that organizes, dissects, analyzes, the part that wants to understand why things are the way they are. And our other nature that we have is the feeling nature. This is the part of us that has this sense of belonging, that wants to be a part of, that seeks connection. And that part of us is the part where our intuition, you could say our psychic part. It's the part that's our compass. So you have an inner compass that can help guide you in your life. Going back to what I shared earlier about the thoughts in your head. Something that I've come to understand, and when we're getting into the mechanics of life, but spiritually, is that you and I, we're spiritually sensitive. And what I mean by sensitive, really, I'm talking about awareness. And everybody's at different places when it comes to awareness, different levels of awareness. If you're not, there's actually are different levels of awareness, the depth, and everybody's is at various parts in their own growth journey here on this planet. And that isn't to say it is good or bad, greater or lesser than type of thing. No, it's just simply just reality of what's going on. Much like how everybody's at a different. It's almost just like, for example, let's say if we were talking, materially, like financial literacy. Everybody's at a different place when it comes to financial literacy. There's some that have very little to none. So those who are really financial literate, who really have an understanding of how money works and things like that. So take that example and just equate it to just having the awareness of our spiritual nature. Think of yourself like a radio tuner, to help put things in perspective. And the thoughts that we pick up may at times, and as often, is our thoughts that are from the outer, Like not all the thoughts that we have in that you have in your head has to do with you, meaning that you don't have to take every thought that comes into your brain, if you will, into your mind personal, because there's a good chance if there's something that's kind of off or perhaps maybe triggering or something, those thoughts in essence don't define you. They just give you some clues as to clues into yourself, what's going on with yourself, but then also gives you clues into what's going on in the environment. And so the next part I want to talk about is on this path of just understanding inner guidance, because I think these points here that I'm sharing is I want to help you understand the depth of this key foundation, right? So psychic abilities, that was something that for me was very fascinating to me. I was always, I had these like Hollywood fantasies and thoughts about psychic abilities, and I thought that there were only particularly people, select people that were born with it, and the rest of us are just normal and don't have anything great going for us, average. Um, and that was my thinking at that time until remember I was reading some books on spirituality, and someone introduced the idea of, wait, I'm psychic. Wait, everybody's psychic. Wait, so I have psychic abilities. Cool. How do I wield them? How can I harness the power? So that is what I was thinking about at the time in my life where I was searching spiritually. And fast forward to now, I've come to understand that psychic abilities really just is communication, spiritual communication. Because we have the material communication, for example, our five senses. We have our sight, smell, taste, feel, or touch, rather, and then hearing, I believe. And I believe that's all five. If I'm missing one or some reason, if I repeated one, well, but basically our five senses, right? Um, those are our physical senses, but we have our spiritual senses. Again, this is where we're talking about psychic abilities. And really, when we look at communication, when you look at the physical senses, it's like when you're touching, like I say, if I'm touching, like I'm touching my knee here, there's communication going on where it's like when you're looking at like from, biology type of thing, or like, like the neurological pathways and stuff like that do their magic to kind of sense like, okay, this is what this feels like. This is the communication that I'm picking up, right? Just to give you that sense. So there's a communication happening that way, right? That we're all very familiar with and then an experience. But then spiritual communication, it works a little bit differently. There's a lot more nuance and ambiguity, and it really it's different, and how we relate with it, because that's the key thing as well. It's like that relation of connecting with the physical world, relating in the physical world, relating in the spiritual world. So like in this, in terms of psychic abilities or spiritual gifts, the senses, the spiritual senses, there are four. And I'll go briefly over them all. I won't go too much in depth for this episode, for the intent and purposes of this episode. But the first one is prophecy, and that's sensing through an inner knowing. It's it's for those who are strong in this gift, they can just pick up and just know things without being told, and they usually have a strong sense of concern for the future, and they make an outstanding executive where they plan, execute, they implement, they organize, and they just boom. And so, and those who are high in this gift are usually the ones that are daydreamers, or the ones who probably slept walk. Which kind of, for me, I work high in this gift, and that's something that I have done when I was little growing up. Sleepwalk, sleep talk, and things like that. So the second gift is vision, and this is the part that senses through an inner picture. These are the people that are very like to be organized and tidy. And they want a neat, harmonious environment. How they look is something very important. And people who are usually high in this gift of vision are usually can be very detached, and at the same time they can put themselves in the other person's shoe. They can see what it's like. So having that, drawing that sense of like that empathy in a way, but with the sense of detachment, not getting caught up in the person that they're relating with. The third gift I want to talk about is intuition. And this is the part of us that's the leadership, the inner leadership. But those who are high in this gift are natural born leaders. And these are the people that are very self-respecting. They really care a lot about respect, fairness, and they're also a lover of people. And usually in people who are high in the gift of intuition in this context, this is because I forgot to mention earlier, but intuition in this context has a lot to do with sensing through inner hearing, like that small still voice inside. Or for me, how I relate with this gift a lot is the songs, particular songs or parts of a song that I'll hear repeating over and over again, just out of nowhere at times. Um, and so the leadership part is really, I think, the intuitive part is also very like short and sweet and to the point type of thing. Get to like the heart of it. Like what it like, like especially like if I'm talking to to someone who's high in this gift, it's like, all right, let me just get to the point here and not kind of drag on or get into a story about X, Y, and Z. The last gift is the gift of feeling, and people who are high in this gift are really natural healers by their touch, by their presence. These are the people who like to really get involved. They're very dexterous. They like to kind of involved in things that involve their hands, their physical body. Those who like to do anything in the performing arts or make some kind of art, any kind of movement, embodiment. you know, Oftentimes those are the people that are very high in that gift, the gift of feeling, where they can sense through feelings and sensations. Um, and those who are high in this gift are very detailed oriented, and it's the part in all of us that's the doer, that's taking action and just like doing the thing, being involved. You know, in some sense, it's like getting ourselves dirty by having experiences, if you will. Because I think it's essential for all of us to have experiences. That's why we're here in the school. And so, just to kind of give you a general snapshot of the psychic abilities, the four spiritual gifts, or the spiritual communication aspect. So, all those play a part into your own inner compass, because we're always sensing something. We're always expressing, communicating something out that is from our presence, our aura. And then we're always picking up things in our environment just because of the simple fact of who we are and our spiritual nature, of us being a radio tuner. And so that's one part. So there's the huge part is like, okay, you have an inner compass. Another part to the inner guidance has to do with spirits. I remember growing up, I used to think that if I ever thought about communicating with spirits, and at the time, it's like Ouija boards and all these things, and like that somehow I was gonna open myself up to possession and demons were gonna take over me, and then bad things will happen, type of thing. But through my exploration and through my own journey, I've come to understand that they're actually okay. There may be demons, quote unquote, but really, in essence, they're just confused souls. I want to kind of strip that away and like take away that power and the fear, because there's really nothing to fear in essence, because we have with us spirits on our journey, and they come through many names, spirit guides, higher self, masters, archetypes. guardian angels, and with the people I'm involved in and the people that I work with, and I use the term spiritual helper to kind of keep things in a simple perspective, very clear. And that's what they, in essence, are there for us. They're there with us, rather, because the relationship that we have with our guardian angels, our spiritual helpers, is one of a partnership. They're there to help in a lot of ways as a mentor, an advisor. One thing that I know that distinguishes a guardian angel, a high soul, from, let's say, from a demon, or what I said earlier, a confused soul, is that they won't ever tell us what to do because they respect our own freedom and our own personal power of choice, our own autonomy. And they want to help empower us in that, in our choices and what we do, what we decide to do, with the directions that we take in life. And why they're there, a lot of it's because, well, we chose them because we incarnate into this lifetime, and we into this school, and we chose them to help us on the other side. So there's like, I like to think of them as like secret agents on the other side in the spiritual realm, sending us messages. And that's where, again, the inner guidance piece I come back to that, and where that comes into play, where they'll give us suggestions and insights into our situations, no matter where we are, when we're by ourselves, where we're encountering, interacting with people, whatever it is that we're involved in, by ourselves or with other people. They're there to offer us insights, tremendous and very deep, rich insights, because they're in the spiritual world. They have that perspective that's one of a like a bird's eye view, and that makes them a huge asset to us. And let me ask you this, if just to kind of introduce and open you up to that idea. Have you ever gotten chills, or goosebumps as they call it? I know I have, and I've usually get them very very frequently throughout the day. And mind you, it's not always when it's cold too. And what I've come to understand is, when I get those goosebumps or chills, more oftentimes than not, it's my spirit guides coming into close contact with me, with my physical body, with my own energy. And because of how their energy is so high and clear, when they come close to my energy field, it can send like a shock of energy, but that usually is something very elevating, very powerful. I'll never forget the time where they came close to me, and I was thinking about them, and I was just getting acquainted with them, um, and I did this whole like little discovery process for myself, like, oh wow, nice, I have spirit guides here with me, and I was beginning to build awareness of them when I hadn't noticed before. And I remember I was thinking about them at work, and when I thought about them, they just came close to me, and I just felt very bubbly, and I just couldn't hold back a smile. And I was just like, I felt like a little kid just bubbling, and that's part of the energy of them. It's like this very childlike, not childish, childlike. And and that's something that's there within all of us. We don't lose that inner child, the spirit of the inner child. Think about like imagination, for example. Especially like kids that probably were very aware and sensitive growing up. They probably had imaginary friends, or they would tell probably people, "Yeah, I have an imaginary friend." But looking at it spiritually, it's like they're interacting and engaging with their spirit guides. Again, this is for some people, not many, and myself included. I never was like that, at least not that I can remember. But just putting it in perspective, right? Of these spirit guides, these spiritual helpers that are there to assist us, to help offer guidance, and that's the key. They offer it. They don't enforce it. They don't impose it. It's where we have to ask for it, for the help, the assistance. Again, but don't ever try to take away our opportunities or try to do for us. They're there to work with us, not for us. And that's a very key component there, to understand the dynamics when it comes to working with guardian angels, working with spiritual helpers. I'm just gonna use spiritual helpers because that's really for me how I relate with them now, and our my dynamic with my personal team. Just like how you have your own style and dynamic with your own personal team, whether you realize it or not. And so, something that has, through my journey, that I've come to discover now more and more is that, so I've given you some information about, understanding the mechanics of how you have inner guidance, right? From like the spiritual sensitivity, being sensitive like a radio tuner, and then communications, our spiritual gifts, and then our guardian angels. After doing the work that I have been working with, basically my intuition, it's I've come to find that a life practice that I have to, that will always be a part of here, of my journey here, is discernment, and actually taking the time to discern what it is that begins with thoughts that become interpreted through, again, visual picture, a small still voice inside, some kind of clear understanding of something, like some kind of sensation or feeling that it may give that perhaps you can't put a word to, or some kind of, again, or inner knowing. It's like those are the ways to kind of look at it, and the framework to kind of approach it when it comes to discerning, right? Because if I were to just tell you, oh, discern, well, how can people discern if they don't have the tools necessary to kind of make sense of, okay, what's me and what's not me? Talking about these thoughts here, you know? And what I've come to find is that when it comes to our intellectual nature, and this is where the kicker is, where our challenges show up, is that we overthink things a lot. I mean, I'm no exception. I overthink a lot of things. This is part of the human experience. But again, it's just like we have our spiritual nature, and it's not, we don't think and act. We feel, think, act. We sense things through our feeling. We feel, think, we organize, make sense of whatever it is, the impressions, the psychic impressions, the communication that we just pick up, whatever that we became aware of. Then after that, we act according to what we've kind of pieced together. So it actually kind of feels like, for me, it's like, I feel myself like a spiritual detective trying to discern, in some sense, maybe figure out. Although oftentimes it doesn't have to. Again, I would caution against figuring out. I mean, just because of like, you can't, like, when it comes to using our psychic abilities, it's not like we don't think them. It's just understanding where it all kind of works together. Like, as I mentioned, the feel, think, act. We pick up the impressions, and then it comes to our mental state, and then we kind of piece it together of what comes through. And oftentimes it can be very quick, very quick. And then that's why it's so easy for us to not even think twice about it. Like, I had this thought, whatever. But if we just take the time to just, for myself, I do a mixture of like journaling. I have a voice recorder of any thoughts that come up for me. Those have been some good practices that I would suggest to you if that's something you're interested in exploring more of this of being able to discern your abilities, and when they're activating, when they're using it. But I know when it comes to psychic abilities, we can use them at will as well. It's not just like, oh, they just activate when they do. No, we can use them intentionally. It's just like, um, let's see. I'm done. Like, I know there was like, I don't know if I wanted to for this episode kind of like, okay, well, maybe let's get into it. So let's get this a shot here. So I'm inviting you to kind of join me for a moment, just for a brief moment. I want you to close your eyes for a moment, and I want you to put yourself in a place somewhere, some kind of physical space in the world that you've been to that brings you a sense of peace. That where you feel relaxed, that you know, maybe perhaps is being at the beach. And in fact, you know, let's take ourselves to maybe your favorite beach spot, and take a moment to notice where you're at, like what's going on in your environment. What do you see? Are there people there with you at the beach? What's the weather like there? What sounds do you hear? Do you hear the hustle and bustle of social interactions, camaraderie at the beach, people playing, maybe volleyball or something? What do you hear? As you're taking this all in, kind of the scene here at the beach, how are you feeling in all of this? How does that make you feel? What are you feeling right now in this moment? All right, now I want you to gently just come back, open your eyes for a moment, and just come back here. And that little journey there was just a way of just showing you that you can use these avenues like that at will. It's not like at the psychic abilities at the mercy of when they happen. And no, it's just like you can use them right now, like you just did. So it's kind of helping guiding you through your spiritual gifts. And it's just as simple as that, really. You know, for me, I think I can get into just complicating psychic abilities and this, and they can always seem like this mystery, but really, I'm under like what's the growth moment for me over the years of my practice was just seeing how it's interwoven with my daily experiences, you know, and it's just and just how easily it can happen, and how it's just like just looking at the things I would consider mundane and look at in essence like the miracle and all of that. What's the you know moments like I like I want to share an experience. It's interesting. Like I remember I was going for a walk, and again this is where we're getting into the nuances here. I was just going for a walk, and I do like a routine walk, especially if I've been inside all day. I think it's important to walk and just get some movement in rather than just being in the house all the time. You know, so this is something that matters to me. And I remember I was walking on this one street, and then all of a sudden I heard like this drop of water. I mean, I can't make the noise, but it was like a drop of water that initially I was like, is that my phone? And I looked at my phone, and because it sounded like it was coming from like my chest area or something. Like I was like, do I have a device here or something? Like a soundboard. I looked at my phone to see if there was any new notification or something. And mind you, I don't have a notification that would make that kind of sound. But I heard that noise. I heard it. I heard it. Maybe I thought I heard it with my physical ears. I mean, about maybe I heard it, mentally with my inner hearing in that moment. But it was very clear. And I think maybe because it was so clear that perhaps, I mean, sometimes we can perceive things spiritually, but like in the material, in the physical world, but it's not necessarily always the case, though. Not necessarily always the case, but it can happen. Like I know I've had other moments when I hear my name, somebody whisper like my name, like Alvin, and I'm like looking back, I'm like, who's that? You know, and those are moments that when I look back and when I've kind of reflected on that, it was my and you know trying to be aware of and piecing it together, like what's going on there. with a sense of like curiosity, approaching it with a sense of curiosity. That those are moments I've discovered that there was my guidance, just giving me nudges and letting me know like, hey, we're here. You're not alone. Because it can be very easy to get into that mindset, that vibration, that energy of loneliness that a lot of people experience, and it sucks. It's not the greatest feeling in the world. And so and and it was a moment for myself. This I want to share like kind of like my approach. In this moment here. So when I look back at that moment, the water drop, because at the time I was like, why did I hear a water drop? What's that about? When I think about a water drop, I think about a ripple effect. I think about how just one singular drop of water can make a ripple that spreads out into a body of water that can go pretty far. And to me, that speaks to the power of influence. And trying to relate it to myself, like how does it relate to me? It's like understanding the influence that I have in my day-to-day endeavors, the influence that I have in my tiny actions that are positive, that are the actions that I take that are in alignment with my purpose. Tiny steps, mind you. Again, not doing anything crazy. You're doing all these, running through these hoops and hurdles and stuff, but just those tiny steps that create those powerful ripple effects that are subtle, but in time and with consistency, they start to show up. They start to manifest, if you will. That's like the sense, at least, that I got for myself. And as I'm sharing this, like a reminder for myself is just to relax with it and to trust. Even though things don't seem very clear right now, and this is where my intellect part is just like worried about this and this, like the future, all this, and is this going to work out, or what am I? I'm worried about this situation, oh, finances, oh, because money's been a part for me, like my challenges as of right now, financial situation. But it's like that saying is let go and let God, and this is really true, and I think the meaning behind that phrase, let go and let God, is that don't overthink it. It's just like relax, trust. That isn't to say like to stop your thinking, shut all those things. It's like just release the hold on it. Like, okay, I'm having these thoughts, I'm picking up these worries, right? Being like this radio tuner, like I'm picking up these frequencies of these thoughts and worries about my financial situation, but I'm not going to worry about it. And that's where we have power. We can make that choice to like give it energy by worrying about it, or it's like, nope, I'm going to let that go. I'm going to trust. I'm going to listen to myself, listen to my spiritual helpers, because I know they'll give me messages. Always, 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 always. They're sending us messages like every single day, 24/7. And if you take the time to actually, through what I've shared with you, to help you give a frame to kind of operate in, to discern, you, I don't know about you, but for me, I was just starting to notice and pick up on a lot of things like, whoa, I'm not crazy here. I mean, really, it comes to a point where like, okay, I can't make this up. This is real. But the intellect part is the part that can really get in the way. And I think that's part of, I see as like a lifelong practice of just like where my intellect part needs to relax and not stress out and trying to be controlling or trying to figure everything out or trying to know everything. All this is like, whew, easy. This is where mindfulness plays a huge role and can help tremendously. Just again, observe. And then that's part of what mindfulness is all about as well too, to give you some perspective, like to just notice the thoughts. Don't identify with them. Just know that you're experiencing these thoughts and things like that. And it's like, okay, there's this distinguishing that, again, I'll mention again, and I'll keep saying again, discernment, if you will. And so it's a beautiful process. I think it's something great, and it's whether you've been doing this for a long time or you're just getting started. I mean, I think it's always going to be a thing while we're here. And I think that's part of the journey, and I think it's important to accept that, so that no matter where you are, you won't have to. I think for me, it helps me release a lot of pressure that I can put on myself, because I can't put a lot of pressure on myself. I'm aware of that for sure. In what ways perhaps do you put pressure on yourself? Can you recognize any moments where you put pressure on yourself? And again, for me, that can come up in the form of like worrying. That's a big thing for me. How I put pressure on myself. I just worry, worry, worry. To no avail. And so I want to begin to kind of close this episode here. Shared a lot here. and one of the things I want to say is that because, we have this inner guidance, I mean, really, no one is truly lost. Everybody is figuring things out, trying to make sense of life to the best of their ability. And even those that would think themselves lost, I would say that they aren't. Just because of our spiritual nature and just because of this foundation. Because we all have it and it's available. And even more so is like, I mentioned earlier that you have an inner compass that guides you in life. You are the inner compass. You are the inner compass. So the only lacking is just not believing in yourself. And this is where I want to begin to help you in that regard, is just to start believing in yourself. I have a little, and I say this for myself too, something I'm always working on. Again, a life process, a lifelong practice and process. That where I have this little piece of this little stevia, little sugar packet that has these little cute messages on it, and I kept this one that says "Believe in yourself," and I taped it in front of my desk where I work. And I always keep that there, and I always remind myself and I look at that from time to time because I need that reminder to believe in myself. And I invite and ask you to do the same for yourself, to believe in yourself and to trust in your own abilities. Because you have tremendous abilities. Nothing short of divine. It's nothing short of just super powerful, or a superpower, if you will. And if there's anything, even just doing that, if you can just believe in yourself, even sometimes if you feel like you have to fake it, but just like, nope, I'm going to believe in myself no matter what. That will take you far, man. That will take you far. This inner guidance is just, there's no lack, it's just resisting our compass. We can resist ourselves, but the more we take time to connect with ourselves, take some time, even from like maybe 5 minutes a day, to just kind of sit in silence, to be with ourselves, to just observe, to just notice like, okay, what are these thoughts that are coming up here? I've been picking up something here. And no agenda, just kind of play around with it. And it's like journal, put it again, just like adopting like this spiritual detective. And I say that because to invite play in this process, because I think that's something that's very important, to get into a play, because something that I know in my experience is that I can get really serious, especially because if I'm picking up thoughts and worries and stuff that are very heavy and very serious, I can't stress myself into a solution. Neither can any of the rest of us. We can't stress ourselves into a solution. So that's why, I embody that let go and let God type of thing. And just like, I have these worries, I need to let it go. Everything's going to be okay, because everything is okay. Looking at it from a spiritual perspective, a spiritual sense, as a spiritual being having a human experience. All these stuff that we're going through are just human experiences. They don't stay forever. The turbulence that we experience in life, they happen, but they don't happen forever. And I've come to believe that to be truth. Just like how the storm, there was always that storm. Again, looking at nature to teach, right? Like as a model of like, as a spiritual teacher, storms pass and they go. And then there's that point where like, there's always rain, before there's always rain in between sunshines. It's like the ebbs and flows type of thing. And so you're not lost, my friend, if you think so. Or maybe, and if you have a sense of where to go, you have some clarity and stuff like that, great. But I think regardless of wherever you are in your journey, if you're not sure, you feel lost, or you know exactly where you're going, regardless, I think it's important to practice being open and becoming more aware, building more awareness. That following your guidance, your inner guidance, following yourself, what you're feeling, what you feel gravitated towards, where you feel pulled towards. Maybe perhaps your spirit guides are gently nudging you towards something. Again, all it takes is just to become more open and aware, and it's a practice. And just noticing what comes up. And it's just, then all this, has helped me restore my belief that life is really magical. I mean, it truly is. Life is a magical thing of just what happens day to day, what happens in the moment right now. Rejoice, my friend. The kingdom of heaven is upon us. We have company, we have support, and it's always available. At many times, the best solution is just to relax our grip, let it go, let go and let God. Listen, in whatever form that takes. Observe. Be curious. And you will be connected, reconnected with your inner guidance. Again, always available, always there. And so this has been another episode of Spirit Engineered. I appreciate your time and attention. I hope you got something out of it. And I'm your host, Alvin, signing out. And as always, take care, my dear friend.